how to get help paying for home maintenance expenses if you're in a long-term care facility. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So this is a common issue, right? We have folks who maybe have been receiving care at home and they've gotten to the point where living at home is no longer practical. It's not safe. They need to either be in an assisted living facility or they need to be in a nursing facility. And those facilities have their own costs. And they might be working with a law firm like ours if they're in Florida, because we can protect their assets and get them help paying for an assisted living facility or nursing home anywhere in Florida. However, the fact remains, if they're living in this facility, then there likely is not any assets or income available to pay for the cost of home ownership, right? The lawn still needs to be mowed. The HOA still needs to be paid. There are still property taxes due with the year. You have to keep the electricity on, otherwise mold will develop, right? So there's still utility expenses. There's still ongoing expenses, and their money might have to be, if they're living in a long-term care facility, the homeowner might have their money otherwise occupied and committed to paying for the cost of the facility, even with Medicaid's help. So what do we do with this significant asset that nobody may be paying for? So in a Medicaid planning context, we have a few tools that we can use to get access to a source of funds that would allow someone to both maintain eligibility, help them afford to cover the cost of a facility beyond what Medicaid pays, and allow them to set some money aside to pay for the cost of homeownership, assuming they don't want to sell. If they want to sell, that's a different conversation. We can help out in that situation too. But if they want to keep the house so that it goes to the next generation, then we have ways of doing that. And here's how that works. There's really a couple of tools available. The first is Medicaid not only allows you to have a primary residence, right? If you could have it sit empty, that is an option, though maybe not a practical one, but they allow you to own a rental property as well. So you could take the primary residence and simply rent it out. And this does a few things. First, when a home is rented out, or any property is rented out, we are able to calculate and develop what we call a Medicaid compliant budget and a Medicaid compliant property management agreement. So essentially what we're doing is Medicaid allows you to show, here's what the lease is. The lease is, the gross rent is $2,000 a month, I'm making up a number. From that gross rent, Medicaid in Florida allows you to deduct certain expenses, including a 10% property management fee, meaning we could hire a child, the adult child of my client who's the Medicaid applicant, to manage the property. We can also deduct some utility expenses and homeowners insurance expenses and enough to pay property taxes and set money aside so that there can be monies there to cover repairs if they are needed, the cost of marketing, interest payments. So there's a list of, not everything can be deducted, but there's a pretty comprehensive list of mostly everything can be deducted from that gross rent. And what will happen is what is net left over would have to be paid to the Medicaid recipient. And if they're in a nursing home, that's more money that goes to the nursing home. If they're an ALF, that's more money that can go towards the cost of the ALF. Because you may remember, in a nursing home setting, Medicaid pays for everything less your income, essentially. In an ALF setting, there's a rent component of an ALF bill and a level of care component of an ALF bill. So your income may not be enough to cover the rent while Medicaid's covering the level of care. So having more income to go towards that rent helps you or your loved one afford a nicer assisted living facility or more comprehensive services provided at the same assisted living facility where they might be located. And again, the property manager, typically a family member, can collect rent and make allowable deductions to keep the property productive, right? To keep bills being paid that are associated with the property, and they even can make a little bit of money on the side for their efforts as a property manager. So that's one way. One way would be renting it out with a Medicaid compliant property management agreement and Medicaid compliant budget to provide for those allowable deductions. Now, another option is working with a home equity line of credit or a reverse mortgage. I know sometimes people hear reverse mortgages and they think of it as a bad word, but it is a useful tool in certain situations. It's not for everybody, but it does make sense in the right situation to unlock equity in the home, because there's a way to structure the reverse mortgage or the home equity line so that it doesn't interfere with Medicaid eligibility. So you can tap into maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to help pay for that nicer assisted living facility and to cover the upkeep and maintenance expenses and the taxes with the primary residence. So those are some of the things that we would discuss. Again, some people are happy to let the house sit empty because the kids maybe will cover the expenses associated with it, knowing that they'll inherit an appreciating asset after they pass away, so they'll get that money back. So leaving it empty is perfectly fine if that's an option for you. Sometimes we have to sell the house or the condo, and then we have to protect the money through another way. But if you don't want to sell, you can't afford to leave it empty, renting it out or tapping into the home equity in the proper way are options to allow you to keep the home in the family and still remain eligible for Medicaid. So I hope this helps. If you're interested in learning more about Medicaid planning, estate planning, getting help paying for you or your loved ones, home care, ALF care, or nursing home care anywhere in the state of Florida, please set up a consultation. If you like this video, if you found it useful, please share it. Please give it a thumbs up. It helps me get good information out to all Floridians to make everybody a more educated legal consumer. Thank you for watching.